Hello again to all of you. Um, we're discussing today and this week sacrifice from a more biblical perspective, and I'm not actually that was not well put. It's not from a biblical perspective, but rather various examples that appear in the Bible, and also especially so in the Gospel, where we have Jesus' self-sacrifice, and this is why you are encouraged to read this week, um, the Gospel according to John, especially those of you who are not familiar at all with the text. Those of you who are more familiar with that with the text, it's fine. I only need some sort of familiarity with the text so we can discuss in knowing what happens. I'm not asking you to read the text as faithful human beings. I'm asking you to read the text as scholars. If you read it as faithful human beings, this is your choice. It's not something that is required for for the class, of course. And for this week, we are reading especially chapter 9, and I will from the scapegoat, from Girard's scapegoat, and I will emphasize that in my email. So please check the email. I'm cutting chapter 9. We will not read chapter 9 for this week, mainly because, given everything that happens around us, we need to concentrate more on certain texts instead of spending too much time on them. So, I will begin with a question, not necessarily from the text, but also in connection with the movie we have seen before, that is the Ostrov. And the question is, why did Cain murder Abel? Abel. And as you know, or you may not know, but I'm sure you know, the story with Cain and Abel appears immediately in the Bible, in Genesis, immediately after Adam and Eve are sent away from Eden. And if you go on chapter 4 from Genesis, you have the story with Cain and Abel, and I will read a few things from it. Please follow any kind of text of the Bible you may have. Now Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, if I have acquired a man through God, I have acquired a man through God. Then she bore again, this time his brother Abel. Now Abel was a shepherd of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. Now in the process of time, Cain brought a sacrifice to the Lord from the fruits of the ground. Abel also brought a sacrifice from the firstborn of his flock and of their fat. The Lord respected Abel and his offering, but he did not respect Cain and his sacrifices. So Cain was extremely sorrowful, and his countenance fell. So the Lord said to Cain, why are you extremely sorrowful? And why has your countenance fallen? Did you not sin even though you brought it rightly but did not divide it rightly? Be still, his recourse shall be to you, and you shall rule over him. Now Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and killed him. Then God said to Cain, where is Abel your brother? He replied, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? I stop here. You are encouraged to read the whole thing. So, humankind was thrown away from Eden, and the first action they do is killing one another. It's fairly bad history that we have as a species if you follow the biblical account. And when one of the brothers is asked, so Cain is asked why he did murder Abel, he says, why, where he is actually. Well, he says, well, am I responsible for him? Am I my brother's keeper? And the story of sacrifice, the story in human culture has to do with this lack of responsibility that humans claim they have for one another. Why should I care about my brother? Why should I care about my sister? Who am I, or who are they actually, to bring any kind of responsibility on me for their life? The gospel, though, changes all things because apparently there is one person, Jesus Christ, who takes upon himself, according to the account of the gospel, all the sins of the world. So Jesus does not say, "Is Tavi? How does? Am I Tavi's keeper? Am I Johnny's keeper? Am I Mary's keeper? Am I Cain's keeper? Am I Abel's keeper?" He takes on his own sacrifice. Um, in order to end all sacrifices. And Girard emphasizes that actually in the text. He says that the account of the gospel is different than all the other accounts because it allows us to see that if Jesus is sacrificed, there is no someone who sacrifices who is worse than others and some other people who are good. But in fact, all of us contribute to that. And the account of the gospel shows clearly that even the disciples, after Jesus was taken by the Romans, renounced him because of fear, because of other things, perhaps because of confusion. Peter himself denies him 3 times. But all of that shows, Girard would claim, that what we are doing in the gospel, what the account of the gospel emphasizes that we are all responsible for the sacrifice. Well, I think that's important for us, especially nowadays. And especially for all of you who work in such an important field now when there's so much pain and suffering in the world because of this terrible disease. What you as human beings do, nurses, healthcare workers, social workers, all of you, my students, you take upon yourself the pain and the suffering of others. You sacrifice yourself for the benefit of other human beings. If there is any hope in the world, it's actually the reverse of the response that Cain does. In our first response, am I my brother's keeper? A human response, really. We all do it. We do it all the time. Is opposed to the other response that people who give themselves to the others offer every day. And I want to thank all of you, actually, for all the work you're doing nowadays, regardless of whether you are already working in healthcare or not. But what you are doing, learning for this class and learning for all the other classes, is an example of giving yourself to the others, giving yourself for your families, giving yourself for your future self. And God bless you all. And may you be healthy and all of yours be healthy.